Hi everyone, welcome to episode number 27 of Perfect Inspiration. My name is Brian Matias. I came across this image as I was going through my Lightroom library, and I remembered there's a lot of importance here in terms of how this shot came to be. And it made me think that this would make a really good episode for Perfect Inspiration. This is Port Townsend, Washington. This is the location of the photo walk that I attended for the 2011 Scott Kelby Worldwide Photowalk. You can see here, I've got the map listed right there. This is Washington. This is, again, Port Townsend. We took a ferry here. And if you zoom in, you'll see that I was standing right over here taking the shot. And you'll be able to see these two columns in the distance and this pier in the distance once I go back to the shot. Unfortunately, I don't think you could see the rock here. But the point is, and I'll keep the map up for a minute, not only was there a large crowd due to the photo walk, but there was also apparently this interesting boat race. These really funky handmade boats were being launched, and they were being launched right from here. They were basically coming down through this launch. And so imagine, you know, this area over here, the entire pier, and then this pier here, it was crowded with people watching. Almost everyone was watching. And I took notice of that pretty quickly because I wanted to actually shoot in this area over here, and especially this curved pier. I really liked the way it looked. So I capitalized on that. I mean, it would have been fun to watch the boats launch, but for me, I was here to shoot. So while everyone was kind of just doing their thing, and that's great to take part of that kind of festivity, I decided to really get down and start shooting. And as you read in the text, I was doing these long exposures that were taking anywhere from 60 to 90 seconds, sometimes 2 minutes, and that adds up very quickly. So I walked away with this shot here. Let's actually see how long the exposure is. This is 151 seconds, so a little over 2 minutes. Because of that long exposure, you can see how the water is really nice and glassy, but things like the rock and the pier are perfectly sharp. You can also see up here, there are some of the heads of people who are moving around. I thought that was pretty cool. And in the distance, you can see some of those, the boats moving through. Now, I'm going to convert this into a black and white image, and I'm going to do that using the suite. So I'm going to go to File, Plug in Extras, and select Perfect Layers 3 to begin. All right, before I go into perfect black and white, I'm actually going to go to the retouch brush here. And I'm going to start retouching some areas, dust spots and stuff that I want to remove. So I'm just going to make these little strokes right here to get rid of those areas that are distracting. Going to get rid of that guy right there. And then there's a dust spot right here, dust spot right there. And just these lines here. Kind of like to take care of those things first if I can. And the retouch brush is doing a nice job here of getting rid of that for me. Just so one more dust spot right there in the sky. All right, I think I'm okay for now. So I'm going to click on black and white from the module selector at the top to begin the conversion. Now that we're in perfect black and white, the way that I have gone ahead and used it is I usually go ahead and I first apply an effect. And in this case, I'm going to apply an effect here called T-Max 400. Now with T-Max 400, I like the look that the image has, but I don't necessarily want the film grain that that effect is named after. So I'm going to go over here to the film grain line item, and I'm just going to click on that on-off toggle. That turns off the film grain, but it still leaves me with that style. Now it's time to start adjusting for the look. First thing I'm going to do is play around with the tone sliders here. I'm going to bring up the brightness a bit. It's a bit too much. I'm also going to bring up the contrast, make it really, really contrasty. Next, I'm going to adjust the black and white points. So for the black point, I'm just going to bring it up just a tiny bit. And then for the white point, I'm also going to bring that up a bit just to bring out that brightness in the highlights. All right, now I want to make some local adjustments here. The first thing I want to do is bring out detail in the rock and also in the pier and the concrete slabs over here. To do that, I'm just going to use the detail brush, and I'm going to bring the amount up to about 50%. With the perfect brush selected, I can feel confident about just drawing in areas without worrying about masking over the borders. So here I'm just going to make these big strokes through the wood here. I'm also going to get up there. And again, because the perfect brush is giving me that edge detection, I don't really have to worry about whether the actual brush itself goes over the edge. All right, now I'm going to switch over to the brightness brush. With the brightness brush, I'm only going to brighten this up just a bit. The default value is 20. I'll bring it up to about 30. And then I'll just brighten up the rock a bit. and also add some brightness to the same area that I just drew in for detail. All right, now that we've taken care of the overall tone and the local adjustments, I'm going to move on to the different panels here. I'm going to start with the glow category. First, I'm going to turn it on, and then I'm going to add a little bit more of the overall halo, which is the kind of that soft glow. And then I'm going to increase the amount. Next, I'm actually going to add a toner here. The toner is going to allow me to specify the color of the highlights and the shadows. First, I just need to turn it on, and then I'm going to use a preset. At the top here, there's a preset here called Black T1. Now, you can take this as stock, or in my case here, I actually went and changed the highlight color just a bit. I dragged it towards the blue channel just a bit here, and I also am going to drop the overall gamma of that blue. Let me bring it down a bit more, because I want to give the image a bit of a cool sensation in terms of the color and the highlights. To further accentuate that, I'm also going to bring out the amount. It's a bit too much. Let me bring that back a bit. There we go. All right, finally, I'm going to go to the blending tab. Now, the blending tab allows you to actually take the black and white image that you just created and blend it with the original color. So you can see here, if we drop the blending modes and hover over them, you'll get blending mode previews. In my case here, I'm going to stick with normal though, and I'm going to bring the opacity down just a bit. Somewhere about like 80%. And what that's doing is it's revealing just a little bit of color through the image. I don't consider this necessarily selective color because I'm bringing back color universally throughout the entire image and only in the smallest amount. But I feel that it really does add to the image here. Now that I'm done, I'll click apply so that we can return back to Lightroom to finish things off. Alright, so now that we're in Lightroom, there are a few things that I want to do. The first thing that I usually do when I bring an image back from the suite is work on the highlights, shadows, white, and black point. Just by looking at the histogram here, I can see that I've got a lot of room to bring out the white point and the highlights. So that's what I'm going to do. Now the way that I do this is I press and hold on the Option key on a Mac or the Alt key on a PC while dragging on these 4 sliders. So with the white point, I'm going to bring this out until I start to see white spots. And there they are, so I'm going to drag it back until I stop seeing them. Same thing for the black point. The black point here is pretty good. I might bring it out a bit. Same thing with the highlights. Let's bring the highlights out until we start to see bright areas. There we are. Now we just pull those back, and then the shadows. The shadows, I'm actually going to drop the shadows down. I want to have some deep shadows here. All right, now if you hit the backslash key, which is right above the return key on the keyboard, you're going to see the image as it was imported into Lightroom. So this is the image straight out of black and white. And then with a few adjustments in Lightroom, you can see how we brought out some more of that tone. Now, to finish things off, I'm going to go ahead and add a lot of contrast and some clarity to the overall image. And I'm also going to take the temperature slider here and just cool off the image just a bit more. Finally, going down, I'm going to add a little bit of a post-crop vignette here. It'll help bring the eye closer to the center of the frame. I'll bring up the feather here to make that vignette more of a transition. And then there we have it. And so just remember, this shot would never have come to be if I wasn't constantly aware of my surroundings. When I saw everyone focusing on this area over here and they were all standing away, I focused beyond them. And I took my advantage to get the shots that I needed that I probably wouldn't have gotten if there were other people just walking through. So be sure to keep that in mind next time you're out. If you see a bunch of people looking in one direction, try looking in the other and heading that way. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you next week for episode number 28.